Imagine walking into a bank in the heart of London in 1822. You have your life savings in your hand and you're looking for a future. You meet a man, a decorated war hero, a general, a prince. He offers you a deal, land in a tropical paradise called Poyais. He shows you maps of grand cities, banks, and fertile soil where gold practically sits on the surface. You buy the land. You exchange your British pounds for Poyaisian dollars. You board a ship with 250 other settlers dreaming of a new life. But 2 months later, as the mist clears over the coast of Central America, you realize something terrifying. There is no city. There is no bank. There isn't even a road. You were standing in a deadly, mosquito-infested swamp with a handful of worthless paper. This wasn't just a scam. It was the most audacious fraud in human history. This is the story of Gregor MacGregor, the man who sold an entire country that didn't exist. To understand how hundreds of people, including savvy bankers, fell for this, we have to look at the man behind the curtain. Gregor MacGregor wasn't your average street swindler. He was a Scottish soldier who had fought alongside Simón Bolívar in the South American Wars of Independence. He was charming, he was brave, and most importantly, he was a pathological liar. When he returned to London in 1821, he didn't just claim to be a hero, he claimed to be the cacique, or the prince of the kingdom of Poyais, a lush territory along the Black River in modern-day Honduras. Now, you have to remember the context of the 1820s. London was in a speculation fever. South America was the new frontier. Everyone wanted to get rich quick by investing in new, exotic nations. MacGregor didn't just join the trend, he invented a nation to lead it. MacGregor was a master of detail. He knew that for a lie to be believable, it had to be documented. First, he published a 350-page guidebook titled A Sketch of the Mosquito Shore, including the territory of Poyais. It was written under the pseudonym Captain Thomas Strangeways. The book described a capital city called St. Joseph, filled with European-style mansions, a parliament building, and an opera house. But he didn't stop there. He opened Poyaisian legation offices in London, Edinburgh, and Glasgow. He had artists design a Poyaisian flag and a coat of arms. He even began issuing Poyaisian government bonds and printing Poyaisian currency. Think about the genius and the evil of this. He was exchanging real British gold for monopoly money he had printed in a basement. He targeted two types of people. First, the wealthy investors who bought sovereign bonds, thinking they were funding a rising empire. Second, the working-class Scots who were desperate for a fresh start. He promised them land that was so fertile you could harvest 3 crops of corn a year. He told them the rivers were filled with gold nuggets. To the people of Scotland, MacGregor was a savior. To MacGregor, they were just walking paychecks. In late 1822 and early 1823, the first 2 ships, the Honduras Packet and the Kennersley Castle, set sail. On board were doctors, lawyers, farmers, and even a man appointed as the official musician of the Poyaisian Opera House. They spent 2 months at sea, fueled by hope. But when they reached the coordinates MacGregor had given them, the atmosphere changed. Where was the port? Where were the white stone buildings of St. Joseph? There was nothing, just dense, impenetrable jungle and a shoreline battered by the waves. At first, the settlers refused to believe they'd been tricked. They thought they had simply landed at the wrong spot. They began to build temporary huts, waiting for the officials of Poyais to greet them. But the officials never came. Instead, the rainy season did. Within weeks, the paradise of Poyais became a graveyard. Malaria and yellow fever tore through the camp. Their supplies rotted. The Poyaisian dollars they had saved were useless scraps of paper. they couldn't even buy a clean cup of water with them. Out of 250 settlers who arrived, only about 50 would eventually make it back alive. The rest were buried in the mud of a country that existed only in the mind of a madman. Here's the most shocking part of the story. You'd think once the survivors were rescued and the news reached London, MacGregor would be dragged to the gallows. But MacGregor was gone. He had fled to France. And did he hide? No, he did it again. He began pitching the kingdom of Poyais to French investors. He even convinced a company to start a colony. However, the French government was more suspicious than the British. When they realized MacGregor was trying to send people to a land he didn't own, they threw him in prison. But here's the twist. He was acquitted. He used his charm and his fake documents to confuse the jury so much that they let him go. He eventually moved back to Edinburgh. Even after the deaths, even after the scandals, he continued to walk the streets in his decorated uniform. Some of the survivors even defended him, believing that it wasn't MacGregor who had lied, but his subordinates who had failed. That is the power of a world-class manipulator. Gregor MacGregor eventually retired to Venezuela, where he died in 1945 with full military honors. He never spent a day in a British prison for the Poyais scam. Today, if you visit the area where Poyais was supposed to be, you'll find nothing but trees and silence. No opera house was ever built, no gold was ever found. The Poyais land scam remains a chilling reminder of human nature. We want to believe in paradise. We want to believe the man in the beautiful uniform. MacGregor didn't just sell land, he sold hope. And as long as there is hope and greed, there will always be a Gregor MacGregor waiting in the shadows. Narrator: if you found this story fascinating, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most incredible mysteries. And tell me in the comments, how far would you go to chase a dream of paradise? Thanks for watching.